When federal agents smashed down Sean Diddy Combs' mansion doors, they found something that would change everything. But what happened inside that New York courtroom last week was even more shocking. A woman known only as Jane took the stand and revealed secrets so dark, so twisted, that even the judge had to clear the room multiple times. What she said next would expose a web of control, fear, and violence that went on for years. And the most crazy part, she was still living in an apartment that Diddy pays for, even while testifying against him. This is her story, told for the first time in public, based on actual court documents and testimony from the federal trial. The secret relationship that went too far. Jane met Diddy in 2020, and what started as a normal relationship quickly turned into something much darker. According to her testimony in federal court, Diddy didn't just want a girlfriend. He wanted someone who would do whatever he asked, no matter how weird or nasty it got. The court heard about something called hotel nights, but these weren't romantic getaways. Jane testified that Diddy would force her to have sex with random men while he watched. She said it made her feel sick and disgusted, but she kept doing it because she loved him and needed his money to survive. In text messages shown to the jury, Jane wrote to Diddy, "I'm not a porn star, these experiences are making sex weird for me." She begged him to stop, saying, "You pair me up with some random man for your own sick pleasure." But according to her testimony, Diddy just ignored her pleas and kept demanding more. The government showed the jury dozens of text messages where Jane tried to say no. She wrote things like, "I don't want to be used and locked in a room to fulfill your fantasies," and "I'm starting to realize what this really is." But Diddy's response was always the same. He would threaten to cut off her money or kick her out of the apartment he was paying for. The Cassie lawsuit that changed everything. Then something happened that shook Jane to her core. In November 2023, Cassie Ventura filed a lawsuit against Diddy with accusations that sounded exactly like what Jane was going through. When Jane read Cassie's lawsuit, she said she almost fainted and felt like she was reading my own story. According to Jane's testimony, she immediately texted Diddy after reading the lawsuit. She wrote, "I've been crying for 3 days. I feel like I'm reading my own sexual trauma." She told him she felt manipulated, and that this was sexual exploitation. But here's where it gets really sneaky. The court played secret recordings of phone calls between Jane and Diddy right after Cassie's lawsuit came out. The crazy part? Jane had no idea she was being recorded. During these calls, you can actually hear Diddy writing notes with a marker while Jane is crying and telling him how hurt she feels. In one recording played for the jury, Diddy says, "I'm sorry you feel this way. It was some kinky stuff I thought we both enjoyed." But Jane can be heard crying, saying, "I've been crying for 3 days reading it word for word." The most chilling part? You can hear the scratching sound of Diddy taking notes during the call, like he was planning his next move. Remember when CNN released that hotel video showing Diddy beating up Cassie? Well, Jane was right there when it happened. She testified that she was sleeping next to Diddy at his Miami mansion when his son burst in saying, "Something is happening." Jane watched the video on her phone and saw Sean attacking Cassie in a hotel. But what happened next shows just how calculated Diddy really was. According to Jane's testimony, Diddy immediately pulled her into what she called a huddle to plan their response. Jane testified that Diddy spent days writing different versions of an apology video. The original version actually mentioned Cassie by name, but his lawyer told him to take it out because Cassie was going to be a witness. The final version that went on Instagram was completely different from what Jane helped him write. When the jury was shown Diddy's Instagram apology video, Jane testified that she didn't think it was real. She said it felt fake compared to the version she had seen him working on. The prosecution had to strike that comment from the record, but the damage was done. The jury heard that even his own girlfriend thought his apology was phony. Just when you think this story couldn't get crazier, it does. After federal agents raided Diddy's homes in March 2024, one of the men who had been involved in the hotel nights decided to cash in. A man named Cabra called Jane and threatened to put their intimate videos on the dark web unless she paid him $10,000. Jane testified that her heart was beating so fast when Cabra called. He told her that Diddy had accidentally recorded one of their encounters on Cabra's phone instead of his own phone, and now Cabra had the footage. Even worse, Cabra told Jane that a media company was interested in buying the video. The scariest part? Jane said investigators actually showed up at her door around this time. She saw them on her Ring camera and found their business card. But instead of talking to the feds, she called Diddy for help. And what did Diddy do? He paid for her lawyers, the same lawyers who are now representing her while she testifies against him. Jane never saw Cabra again after he tried to blackmail her. But the fact that he had those videos proved that everything Jane was saying about the hotel nights was real. There was actual evidence of what Diddy was making her do. Nothing could have prepared anyone for what Jane testified happened on June 18, 2024. She called it a date she'll always remember. And after hearing what she said in court, it's easy to understand why. Jane testified that Diddy came to her apartment after a family trip to Utah. She had decorated with red lights because that's what he liked, and she was expecting a quiet night together. But when she confronted him about being with a younger woman on his trip, everything exploded. According to Jane's testimony, she called Diddy names and even pushed his head into a counter when he bent down. She threw candles and glass at him, screaming, "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." But what Diddy did next was truly shocking. Jane testified that Diddy chased her through the apartment, kicking down every door she tried to lock. First the bedroom door, then the bathroom door, then her closet door. When she tried to run outside, she said Diddy caught her and put her in a chokehold. "I couldn't breathe, I was on my tippy toes," she told the court. She managed to get away and hid behind a wall 6 blocks from her house for 2 hours. She was barefoot, wearing only a dress, with no phone or ID. But when she came back, Diddy was waiting for her. The violence continued on her patio, where Jane said Diddy punched her in the head multiple times and kicked her while she was curled up in a ball trying to protect herself. She testified that she ended up with 2 golf ball-sized knots on her forehead and a black eye. But the most heartbreaking part of Jane's testimony was what happened next. Even after this brutal beating, Diddy told her to put ice on it and put an outfit on. By outfit, she knew he meant lingerie. Then he used her phone to call another man to come over for one of their sessions. Jane testified that she covered her bruises with makeup and her forehead bumps with her hair, just like Cassie had testified about doing. She took an ecstasy pill and performed oral sex on the man while still injured from the beating. She said it felt like forever, and she felt like she wasn't in her own body. Here's what makes this case so complicated and heartbreaking. Even after everything that happened on June 18, 2024, Jane didn't leave Diddy. In fact, she was still with him right up until weeks before his arrest in September 2024. Jane testified that Diddy still pays her rent to this day. He's also paying for the lawyer representing her in this case. When prosecutors asked how she feels about Diddy now, Jane said she prays for his continued healing and for peace for him. The strangest part? Jane didn't even tell prosecutors about the June 18th beating until April 2025, just months before the trial. She told Diddy's defense lawyers about it first, showing how conflicted she still felt about him. This reveals something really important about how control works in these situations. It's not just about physical force, it's about making someone completely dependent on you. Diddy controlled Jane's money, her housing, her legal representation, and even her ability to make money on her own. When she tried to start an OnlyFans account to be independent, he discouraged her. Dr. Dawn Hughes, a psychologist who testified earlier in the trial, explained how this kind of control can make victims feel like they can't leave, even when they're being hurt. The prosecution might bring her back to explain Jane's behavior to the jury. Jane's testimony is huge for the federal case against Diddy. Her text messages, the recorded phone calls, and the photos of her broken doors all provide evidence that prosecutors say proves sex trafficking, racketeering, and other serious crimes. But the defense will definitely attack Jane's credibility. They'll point out that she stayed with Diddy for years, that she admitted to consenting to being on the videos, and that she's still taking his money. They'll argue that this was a toxic relationship between adults, not a crime. The prosecution has to prove that Diddy used force, fraud, or coercion to make Jane have sex with other men for money. Jane's testimony about being threatened, beaten, and financially controlled could help prove that. But her continued relationship with Diddy makes it complicated. What makes Jane's testimony so powerful is all the evidence backing it up. The jury saw the text messages, heard the recorded calls, and saw photos of the damage to her apartment. They heard Diddy's own voice on those secret recordings, trying to do damage control after Cassie's lawsuit. The fact that Jane was still living in Diddy's apartment and taking his money while testifying against him shows just how deep his control went. Even when she was trying to bring him down, she couldn't fully break free from his influence. Jane's testimony reveals something disturbing about power and control in relationships. It shows how someone can use money, housing, and emotional manipulation to make another person do things they don't want to do. The federal government is arguing that what happened to Jane wasn't just a bad relationship, it was organized crime. They say Diddy ran a criminal enterprise that used women like Jane for his own sick pleasure while making money from it. When Jane's cross-examination continues, we'll see how well her story holds up under attack from Diddy's lawyers. But based on what she's already revealed, this case has exposed a level of control and manipulation that goes way beyond what most people imagined. The recordings, text messages, and physical evidence all support Jane's version of events. And the fact that her story matches up so closely with what Cassie Ventura described in her lawsuit makes it even more believable. Whatever happens in this trial, Jane's testimony has already changed how we think about power, control, and abuse in relationships. Her courage in speaking out, despite still being financially dependent on her alleged abuser, shows just how complicated these situations can be. The trial continues, and more shocking revelations are likely to come. But Jane's testimony has already provided a window into a world of secrets, control, and violence that most people never knew existed.